This is the story of two very disagreeable persons, Mr. Todd and Tommy Brock. Mr. Todd was a red fox was no friend of the rabbits. He owned half a dozen houses and changed them often. When he moved out of one house, Tommy Brock, the badger, might move in without permission. Tommy was short, fat, and dirty. He ate wasp nests and frogs and worms and once in a while rabbit pie. One day he paid old Mr. Bouncer a friendly visit while the rabbit's son, Benjamin Bunny, and daughter-in-law Flopsy were away. Mr. Bouncer was supposed to watch their babies, but he often forgot things. Tommy Brock complained that he hadn't had a good meal in weeks. "I suppose I shall have to eat my own tail," he joked. Mr. Bouncer treated his hungry friend to seed cake and cowslip wine. Afterward they smoked cabbage leaf cigars. The old rabbit fell asleep in his chair, and when Benjamin and Flopsy returned, their babies were gone. Though Mr. Bouncer would not admit he'd had a guest, the smell of badger was quite strong. Benjamin Bunny set off after Tommy Brock. Late in the day Benjamin came upon a rabbit in a blue coat. "Cousin Peter Rabbit!" he cried. Benjamin told Peter Rabbit how Tommy Brock had taken his young family, 7 babies, Cousin Peter, and all of them twins. "Yes, I just saw Tommy carrying a sack of something live in it," Peter said. "He offered to help Benjamin find his children before they became a badger's breakfast. What a nasty person!" After much walking they came upon one of Mr. Todd's many homes, this one at the top of Bull Banks. The house, a cross between a prison and a pigsty, was shut up tight. Through the window, though, they glimpsed the kitchen. The fireplace was neatly laid with sticks, ready for lighting. At one end of the table were an empty pie dish, a carving knife, and a chopper. There was also a place setting. Benjamin gave a shudder. At the next window they saw someone asleep in Mr. Todd's bed. But where were the babies? After the sunset, the cousins saw many unpleasant things lying around the ground, rabbit bones and skulls and chicken legs. It was most shocking. Later, by moonlight, they could make out the iron door of a little wall oven in the kitchen, and then they knew the babies were shut up live in the oven, ready to be cooked for breakfast. What to do? After much whispering, they decided to dig a tunnel under the house. By sunrise, they had scratched their way under the kitchen. Then all of a sudden they heard the bark of a fox. The cousins trembled in the dark tunnel. Mr. Todd was in a terrible mood. He had failed to catch a pheasant in her nest, and 2 of her eggs had been bad. As usual, when he felt low, he would change houses, so he was returning to Bull Banks. On the way he noticed badger tracks. In the kitchen he was furious to see the table set for a meal. Mr. Todd heard snoring from the bedroom. His whiskers bristled with rage. Tommy Brock was flat on his back in bed and with his boots on. Mr. Todd thought about what punishment would be best. He went to get a clothesline with a hook at one end. The fox put the other end out the bedroom window, then tied the rope to a tree in the yard. Tommy had been watching all along, but was too lazy to move, so he pretended to sleep. Mr. Todd returned with a pail of water. This he put down while he arranged the hooked end of the line over the bed's canopy. Mr. Todd had planned to hang the pail of water above his unwelcome guest's head and then spill it by pulling on the rope from the yard. But the pail was too heavy to lift, so he emptied it and hung it from the hook. Then he ladled in water from a jug. A drop or two splashed on Tommy, but the badger never budged. "It will make a great mess," thought Mr. Todd, "but the bedding needs cleaning anyway." When Mr. Todd left, Tommy rolled the fox's robe into a bundle and stuck it beneath the sheet. Then he lit the kitchen fire and made tea. In the yard, Mr. Todd gnawed through the rope, and from the house came a crash and the sound of a pail rolling over and over. But no screams. From the window the fox could see the soggy bed. The lumpy shape beneath the sheet never moved. "I've killed him dead," said Mr. Todd happily. "I'll bury him and then do a good spring cleaning." But this was not to be. Tommy Brock, very much alive, sat grinning and drinking tea at the kitchen table. He threw a cup of hot tea at Mr. Todd when the fox came through the door. Benjamin and Peter crept out from the tunnel when they heard the sounds of fighting overhead. It was a most fearful fight. Plates smashing, pots and pans crashing, furniture breaking, windows shattering. The fox and the badger then rolled out the door together and kept on fighting, snarling and thrashing. They fell over the bank, down the hill, and into the rocks. Oh, those two will never be friends. Benjamin ran back and rescued his babies. He and Peter hurried home, half carrying, half dragging the sack of warm, wiggly bunnies. They did not stop to listen to the sounds of fighting that still echoed in the woods. We, too, can only guess how the terrible battle between Mr. Todd and Tommy Brock ended.